Hi everyone, so today I want to show you this card, which is a collar card. Now I made this a long time ago, back in about 2015, 2016, something like that. I think I did it as a demo and I pinned it on one of my boards on Pinterest, but I've never done a video for it. Part of the reason is because I can't make it fit into a 5x7 or a 6x6 envelope because the little lapel bits stick out too far. So this one currently measures 8 inches wide and 7 inches tall, so you would need a large envelope for this. You can get round this by folding your lapels up, both of them up, and then posting it that way. It's just the recipient needs to know when they open it to open it up like this. So that's, yeah, so you can get round it, but yeah, and if you do that, then you could make it a bit bigger. The papers that I used on this one were from my Game Nights digital pack, which is available over in my Etsy shop. I'll put the link up on the screen, or I'll put the little thing up on the screen, and the link will be in the description below. And then the die that I used for the bow tie and the shirt collar, I think it was either a Stampin' Up die or it was a Do Crafts die. I'm not entirely sure where I got it from. Can't really remember if it was one of those. I know both companies have done similar kinds of things before. So yeah, and then you can either write down here on the bottom, or if you want to, you can put a white piece on the back and write on the back. So there we go. So let's get into it. Right, so for this card, you're going to need a base card that is 7 inches by 11.5. And then you're going to score it along the long edge at 3 3/4 and at 7.5, like that. And then we're also going to score it diagonally. So if we go from the top of this 3 3/4 line, you want to score from the top to this bottom right hand corner here. So I've obviously got this line marked on my scoreboard, which helps, but if not, you can just use a cork board and a ruler, and we're going to score down like that. Then we're going to take it back to as it was, and we're going to turn it the other way, so we're now at the top of the 7.5 line, and we're going to score from there to the bottom left hand corner. Just going to line that up, make sure you get it, you don't go over, because if you go over this score line it makes things a bit tricky. So you want to make sure you're nice and lined up, so you should end up with that. And then what we're going to do is I'm just flipping it over because of the way I've scored. We're just going to fold these in, and I'd start with this one, the right hand side first, and you want to make sure that when it goes in it doesn't go over that score line. So if you just need to just kind of burnish it so that it's just slightly in, because then this one's going to come over the top, and you want to make sure that they all fold down nicely and sit nicely over each other like that. Okay, so you've got kind of like a trifold type card. Then what we're going to do is we're going to fold back along this diagonal score line. If you find it easier, you can use a ruler and just bend it up against the ruler, but you just want to make sure you give it a good nice score like that. And then we're going to do the same with this one. So again, just going to fold that all back. Just got to be careful here you don't accidentally bend it wrong. And this is what I was saying about at the top. So can you see there I've gone, it's just slightly kicking out there. So I just need to make sure, if I get my nail in there, and make sure it doesn't go over, because you don't want to end up with a tear. Got a little bit of a tear there, but it's not too bad. So you should end up with that. So that's kind of your jacket fold. Now for the layers, you can go for mats and patterns, or you can just have patterns. Whatever you do, if you're going with mats, you really do need to have a double-sided card. By that I mean it's the same colour on both sides. So this is a black card and it's black on both sides. It hasn't got white on one and colour on the other. And the same with your patterns, you want a non-directional pattern. Now, unless you do the trick that I did with cutting my pattern paper out, which I'll show you in a moment, then you're going to want to do 2 cards at once, because you're dealing with triangles and angles. And when you deal with triangles and angles, things get very interesting. So what you're going to need, if you are using mat card, you're going to need 3 pieces of mat card that are 3.5 by 6 3/4. One of them is going to stay as it is. You're not going to cut it. It's going to stay whole. The other 2, you're going to cut in half diagonally. Now, as long as you are using double-sided card, you can cut them both the same way, because what will happen is some of these you'll have to turn over so that you can fit them in certain places. If you're using single-sided card, then what I suggest you do is cut one piece from the top left to the bottom right and cut the other one the opposite way round, so the top right to the bottom left. Okay, so if you've only got single-sided mat card, then that's what you need to do. So we're now going to go ahead and we're going to add these onto our card. Now the other thing to note is that these measurements do give you a very narrow border. If you want a wider border, then instead of going for 3.5 by 6 3/4, you can go down a quarter and go for 3.25 by 6.5. Okay, so if you want a slightly bigger border, you can do that. I decided to go for the more narrow border just because when I made my little sample card, it seemed to turn out okay. So we're just going to go for it. Okay, so that's the mat layers put down. So what we're going to do now with the pattern, your pattern pieces, you can either cut yourself. If you're making 2 at a time, then you can cut yourself. Let's see if I put this here. I know these aren't the same, but just so you can see the rectangles, you can cut yourself out 2 rectangles that are 3/4 by 6.5. Or if you only want to make the one card and you don't want to bother with that, then what you can do is if you take your paper, so this is the piece of paper I took it from, and as you can see I've got 2 triangles missing off it. If I turn it over and lay these back in, you can see what I've done. So if you don't want to make 2 and you just want to make 1, then what you need to do is measure. Obviously again this works as well if you've got directional paper. So if you've got directional paper, then this can make it, you know, that you have the right direction. But you want to measure along one of the edges, probably well, yeah, whatever edge you want to do. You want to measure along and mark at 3.25, and then measure up the other edge at 6.5, draw a line, cut along that line, and that gives you a triangle. And then the other triangle needs to be on the opposite side. So your right angle is on the right here, but your right angle needs to be on the other side. So then from this left hand side, measure along 3.25, up the other side 6.5, and that way you get 2 pieces of card which are then going to fit nicely on your final card. And I've done the same for the other pattern as well, because I wanted this checkerboard. So I've done the same with that, because if you try and cut a rectangle, if I turn this round, you see how it doesn't work, because there's my thing and the right angle is on the left hand side. You need one on the left, one on the right, so it doesn't work. So that's why you need to do it that way if you're just making 1 card. If you're making 2 cards, you can just cut out twice the amount. So you can cut out, I believe you'd cut out 4 pieces, 4 rectangles that are 3.25 by 6.5, 2 out of one pattern, 2 out of the other pattern, and just make sure that you cut one way and one the other way, and then the pieces will all kind of match up. Just have a bit of a play with some scrap paper if you're not quite sure. So we're going to go ahead now and place this in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and stick these down. The other thing as well that I advise you do, which I haven't done, is again, if you're using tape, make sure you put it on before you start cutting up, because otherwise now I've got to deal with points here and folding bits of tape over. So that's what I would say. Right, so if we go back to, there's your finished card, obviously all nicely done. And then if we go back to that other black piece that you had, the other matte piece that was 3.5 by 6 3/4, I'm cutting out a white piece, but obviously if you want to do a pattern you can, because I'm going to make this into like a shirt. So this is 3.25 by 6.5, and it's going to go over the top there. Now if you wanted to, you could make it, you know, emboss it. That might be quite nice for the shirt, but I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm just going to stick it straight onto the black piece. And then this is going to stick obviously inside in that center panel there. And then I've also got a die which actually cuts out shirt, the collar, everything, like the V-neck on the lapel, the whole lot. So I've just taken the little collar die and I'm going to put that up there like that. Now obviously because it's white on white, it's not that visible, but you can kind of see it. I think what I'll do is I'll put it on a bit of silicone glue behind it so I can raise it up a little bit. but not too much. And then I've got the little bow tie here. So again, I'm just going to, I think I'm just going to put some silicone glue on the middle. If you wanted to, you could kind of, you know, plump it up a little bit or whatever. I'm just going to leave it as it is. And that's going to go in the middle there like that. Okay, so when this shuts, you've got your little bow tie. Now I could have put a tie in there as well. It feels a bit empty, but it's not too bad. So with regards to where you're going to write, you can either write below this point. So when you open it up, you can write here. Or if you want to, you can put a piece on the back. I have actually got a piece of white here, which I probably should put matte on, but I'm probably going to leave it as it is like that. I'll probably stick that on just like that. But yeah, it's quite a cool card. Stands up nicely. You can either stand it like that, or you can stand it like that. So either like this or like that, depending on how you want to stand it up. You know, and obviously you can add your greeting on it. But it's quite good. It's good for a mail card. Good for a Father's Day or, you know, male birthday. I mean, even if you could do a female card as well. If you did like nice female feminine colours, and then you could do a pretty little, you know, kind of like a jumper or whatever on there. So it's just quite a cool flexible card, really. I see as well that it'd be maybe quite good for a kimono, for like a Chinese, that kind of oriental themed. That might work as well. But yeah, very flexible, very nice. So I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to go over to my Etsy shop and check out these papers. This is the Game Nights paper pack. And I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I'll see you again next time. Bye.